I'm sorry. Now back. The 19 courses are courses that are life skill courses that are needed. Okay. And many times, these life skill courses, you find it in many other schools of thoughts. You do find them. I mean, if you learn about a particular life skills, and I'm going to go over, I'm bringing it up on the screen, all the different life skill courses, the 19 courses. And so, one thing that I've learned to do is, to whatever school of thought that I'm involving myself in, I always try to stay true to the one school of thought that I have more experience with. I'm a musician. I'm a percussionist. So I also use that in terms of my teaching method. those tones and frequencies and rhythm. Very, very important, you know. But now these 19 courses, right? I If you look at the description, you see Scientology. They're offered by Scientology. But here's the thing, you know, Scientology has gotten a very bad rap. You know what I'm saying? Well, first of all, a lot of people have investigated into the life of L. Ron Hubbard. I believe it's, did I say that right? Yeah, Ron L. Hubbard or L. Ron Hubbard, who is the originator or the first main, one that started the Scientology, Dianetics, right? And then they formed the the Church of Scientology, right? It's gotten a bad rap because they gone into his personal lives and things that came up, right? But in reading about L. Ron Hubbard, he spent a lot of time in Egypt. So a lot of these schools principles are coming out of the Kemetic science, all coming out of the Kemetic science. You know what I'm saying? When you're able to put the pieces together and you're able to see it, that's what I'm saying. That is my barometer. That is how I use, how I look into things. I try to see, does this fit into to what I'm used to? And that's how you develop your affinity. And we're going to speak about that. So again, in the media, everybody, when they mention Scientology, immediately they mention Tom Cruise and his involvement with the Church of Scientology. And in today's day and time, and it also comes on the internet about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett being part of this whole Scientology um, school of thought, and what happened with Chris Rock and so and so and so. So they always throw that out there. You know what I'm saying? We're going to discuss that in the 19 courses later on of antisocial behavior, and we have to be very, very careful. So again, you can extract nature science from basically biblical, and the Bible doesn't have a clear, doesn't have an all 100% pure good history to it. The Quran, Muslims do not have that either. Many different schools of thought, if you look at it, there is a little stain in there also, but we can't pay attention too much to that. You know what I'm saying? It's not about the author, it's what they say. And how can we use some of that? How can we use some of those principles to better our life? Because at the end of the day, it's about us bettering our life as an individual, family, tribal life, communities, and humanity. You know what I'm saying? So the 19 courses that is offered by Scientology is the prerequisite, okay? Because those are life skill courses. Everyone needs it. And like I said, and I'm going to show you how I'm able to take those principles that are taught and able to line them up with noon science, with Sabiwu Sabat, with biblical, with Israelite, with the Quran. Man, I got my window up and all these chucks, I guess, kids coming from school, and line them up with that. You know what I'm saying? As to say, okay, this is something I can work with now. Okay, this is something that makes sense here. And sometimes, by a way someone else puts it, you can learn that the example that they give you, the definitions that they give you, you're able to draw from that so as to enhance your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? That is very, very, very important. So I want to share my screen here 1 second. I'll show you something. This is the African Kingdom Federation site, right? I want you to go African kingdoms federation.com. You can go on there. Okay. Now now when you go into great site, there's many things. As a matter of fact, I'm going to spend a lot of time doing blogs on this site and introducing and lining up a lot of the new nuclear science and Wu Sabat sciences with this, because I think it's very, very, very important. You know what I'm saying? When you go down to the Federation Task Force and you go to Training Task Force 1, and we scroll up, so these are diplomatic and mission arc representative basic trainings. These are the basic trainings for the African Kingdom Federation. And things change because remember, the African Kingdom Federation is the Ma Federation, or they say the Ma Confederation. Those 7 lineages that spread out to India all over. That's the Cushite lineage. All right, Kush, Saba, Sheba, Saba, also Yemenin. So from Yemen in southern Arabia, Yemen, all the way into the horns of Africa, right? Into coming from the Nile Valley and spreading out to Yemen. You know what I'm saying? Those lineages, okay? So that was the Ma Federation, those hunter-gatherers called the land of the bow, Taseti ones, right? That formed the Taseti. They also spread out, became Kushite Hindu Valley, the Hindus, Kush Valley, the Hindu Kush, and on and on. And in Sumeria became Magari. You know what I'm saying? So these lineages spread out, right? So this Ma Federation today, day and time, because of the lineage, right, and the secession, is known today as the African Kingdom Federation. It's different than the African Union. The African Union backs up the African Kingdom Federation because the African Union is a union of all these African countries and chiefs and kingdoms and stuff. This is a kingdom within the African Union is recognized, and also the United Nations is recognizing because the Imperial Majesty, Kasambu Ra, the Queen of Sheba, sits in certain committees. Certain queens and kings and chiefs, they sit on certain committees in the United Nations. Remember, those are nations that get together. Again, it has a tainted history in the past, right? Has a tainted history. Not everybody in the United Nations are what you say. There are some that have certain agendas that are not agendas that we that involves us. You know, but yet as a nation and as a non-nation, you can sit in some of these committees and you can voice your opinions and you can voice. Okay, now this basic training, if you look at the courses, so you have the dynamics of existence, the components of understanding how to resolve conflict, solution for dangerous environment, assist for illness and injury, integrity and honesty, marriage, emotional tone scales, right? Pete Floyd, Bondo, answers to drugs, children, tools for the workplace. Very interesting. Ethics and conditions, the cause of suppression, investigations, and basics of organizing, fundamentals of public relations, right? Targeting goals. It's the technology of study. We was discussing today mental cognition, right? This is technology of study. Then you got, of course, communication. I'm going to speak about communication, so I'm going to bring that up. Let me see. I'm gonna bring up the communication. Let me stop sharing this and reshare my screen because I'm gonna bring up communication. Now, here's the thing about communication. Like I said, as a teacher, someone, teachers, when you're teaching a class, a lot of times your students, they some learn by more example. Some you can read to, and you can put things on a blackboard, whatever, and they'll learn it. But then there are those that'll look at you, and it's usually the students learn from the examples of the teacher and wants to know what does the teacher really know. You see, I'm a percussionist, and so I look at the art of communicating from a musical, from a percussion perspective, because I'm putting my affinity, my soul into the class and demonstrating. You need physical things to demonstrate communication. So I got my drum, right? I'll take my drum into class and I tell them, so I want to show them about communication, what you need for communication, right? And let's break it down. Let's break it down. Okay. I gotta share this. Let's look it down here. Okay. Now, Scientology online courses. Don't let that scare you about Scientology. I'm not telling you to join a church of Scientology. I'm not telling you that this is, you know what I'm saying? You have to learn how to draw things out, right? And see, how is this going to benefit me? What can I learn from this? So, in dealing with the components of what? Understanding or standing to reason, we gain, like our master teacher, Panabab Yananan said, you gain a lot of understanding so you can overstand and stand to reason something. You know what I'm saying? So now, when we deal with each of the three parts of understanding, standing to reason, you deal with an affinity, reality, and communication. They're very closely connected to one another. How do we transform that into percussion and music? Simple. Well, let's look at the affinity first, right? Let me see. I think I got to go back. Sorry about that, yo. Let me go back. Here you go. So, so standing to reason that the result from combination of affinity, reality, and communication. So, for example, one has to have some affinity. That means the likeness of for an object, some communication with it, and some ideas of his reality. Know something about it before he can understand it. So, his ability to understand any person, thought, object depends upon his affinity, his communication, his reality. To be able to improve, increase, why? Your understanding, so you can gain the overstanding, so you can stand to reason things properly. And we're going to talk about reason later. It is necessary to be fully familiar with and understand what each of these parts themselves consists of. Now look at affinity. It's used here to mean love, liking, or any other emotional attitude. Affinity. So in order for in percussion, for me to in communication, right? I have to develop this affinity for my particular instrument on my drum. Remember, I'm communicating and I'm sitting with other individuals, right, who has their part, and so they have to develop an affinity. So if I have an affinity for a rhythm, right, and I'm playing in a rumba, right, an affinity, right, an emotional toss with this object, right? The enthusiasm at some level of affinity needs to be established. So the amount of affinity can be measured by how willing someone is to be in the same space, the same group as, or be similar to another person. So if you say, I like you, you're really, what you're saying is, well, I just as soon be you or like you. In other words, I'm sitting next to this percussionist and I'm going, right? And then he's going, bam, bam, right? And I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, I am now communicating back and forth. The affinity is there, right? And I'm involved, engaged in what that other percussionist is doing. I'm occupying that same space as that person. It's the same thing with any communication. You want to occupy that space, that affinity that you having for that particular person or object. So when two individuals do not like each other, if I don't like what this other percussionist is playing, right, it means they won't be in each other's space. It's not going to sound right because I don't have that affinity. I don't have that likeness. You know, I'm not occupying that space. I'm playing my part, and he's playing his part, and the other one's going, beep, beep, beep. Oh, the other one is, that's the improvising. So they won't like to take the other person's point of view, or they won't connect with them percussion wise. They don't want to be like the other person. So, like I say, one wear blue, the other one feel like he has to wear green. I don't want to be in that same space as that person. If two men talking to each other are not in affinity with each other, they would tend to argue, clash, and just walk away from each other. It happens a lot in musical groups. They'll clash. You have a band, you got the bass player. They have to create. You have to create that affinity, that likeness for that person. Now, reality is the solid object, the real things of life. This percussion, this drum is a reality, right? It's seen, it's felt. Reality is an agreement. Okay, we both know we both have drums. We both know we both have our instrument. That's a reality. Something that is real, something that we can agree to exist and can perceive, right? The reverse will be a disagreement. Therefore, two or more persons do not agree on what is true or what is real. And no, that's not a bass. That's a guitar. That's not a bass. That's a piano. That's not a bass. That's a drum. They don't agree on that. That's lack of communication. That which is real simply because it is agreed upon and for no other reason. I agree that this is a drum. And to take it further, this is the bass, right? The bass drum. Then you got the conga playing the segunda, right? Right? And so and so and so, right? Now, communication is the most important of the three parts. Now, we got that affinity that needs to be developed, right? In order to communicate. And then you have the reality. That all of that has to be established because communication is that's the most important of the three part is bringing about an understanding. So a communication is a message or is a particle, phonons or protons going through a distance in a certain relation direction between two exact points. So that's communication. I got one drum here, you got the other drums, and guess what? The distance, the phonons, the rhythm, the tones that it's making, right? It's reaching each one. And so through the ear, right, to the audio cortex, it's reaching one. And then the definity is being drawn. You know what I'm saying? That likeness. And now we're in total communication. So a very simple way of saying what communication means is to shift the movement of a particle from one part of space to another part of space. Okay. And a particle is a thing being communicated. It can be an object, a written message, a spoken word, and an idea. It can be an idea. You can have an idea, and then with another person, when they have respect and they see your idea, and they develop an affinity for that particular idea, and they want to be within that idea. You know what I'm saying? That's an affinity. That creates a reality. You're saying like, this thought is a reality. Or when you could take the physical object, right? That's very important. And then we can create that communication. So if you took a baseball, so for communication, if you took a baseball and threw it at someone to catch, that will be a communication for you and the other person. All right. If you say hello to to someone, that too will be a communication, exactly following the meaning above. Because when you say hello, now the phonons, the words, the idea of saluting now reaches the other person. And that person that the emotion, the affinity he has, hey, acknowledges. Okay. And that's a reality. So communication can be two-way with a person who received the first message, sending his own message back to the first person, and so on. So now, communication is not just speaking to someone. There are many ways to communicate, and I just described to you a form of communication, which is through music and drumming. That's communication. Two people can sit and look at each other also and be in communication. One of the ways to go into communication is by touch. You can pet a cat, and the cat all of a sudden starts to purr. You're in communication with that cat. The object is the cat. The affinity is the likeness of that cat. You're in the same space as the cat, and you're stroking that cat, and now the cat starts to purr. You're in communication with that cat. You can reach out and shake a person's hand, and you're in communication with him. There's people who want to try to shake your hand, and you want to draw your hand back. Say no. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be in the same space as you. It happens. Could happen. So in France, Italy, and Spain, people often throw their arms around each other and to greet them, right? And they are in contact with each other, and that contact is called communication. When I say to you, Rahubat, right? And if you have that affinity, you can communicate even further to say, oh, hey, Rahubat, Rahubat Zamal. All right? Okay? While it is important to understand each of these three separate parts, they also have a specific relationship to each other. These parts have a relationship to each other. And when combined, adds up to greater and lesser understanding of people, objects, and life itself. This is life itself. You gain an overstanding of life itself. So this is the subject of the next lessons, right? So this is, again, it's offering Scientology, but forget about that. Let's throw that out the window. Look at what it's saying. Does it make sense to you? Can I put this into my drum percussion? Can I put this into my world around me? My experience, experimentations, and my experience with people around me? Can I do that? Huh? See? That's what's important there. That's communication. Okay? And now with communication, you have what they call, oh, I'm sorry, I have to. Oh, it did change over. Okay, good. You have the arc triangle, right? So to understand these three parts, it's the triangle part, right? Affinity, reality, and communication. They're very closely connected to one another. And there's a change in one of these. If there's a change in one of these, the other two are also changed. And that's mathematics. That's when you deal with the right triangle, right? You got the 90 degree and you got the 45 and the 45 degree, which adds up to another 90 degree, right? So when you change the 45 degree and you diminish that 45 degree into say 30 degree, it's going to change the other 45 degree is going to go higher. It might not affect the 90 degree, which is the what they call the no, you got the hypotenuse, the hypotenuse. Well, it's been a while. So that's algebra, right? When you lower one side, right, or you raise the other side, it's going to affect the other side. That's just mathematics. You know what I'm saying? And same thing with communication. If so, there's a change in one, there's also a change to the other two, because each is so dependent on others. You can think of them as, again, as a triangle. You raise your lower one corner of the triangle, decreases, increases, affinity, reality, communication. The other two corners also are lower and raised. So the more affinity that I have, right? The more I raise my affinity, the more I raise the triangle. My communication gets bigger, my reality can get bigger. If I diminish my reality but increases my infinity, I can create an imbalanced triangle. It affects my communication. So without affinity, there is no reality or communication. There's none. You can't communicate with nobody. If I don't have that affinity, I cannot get on this drum and communicate. You know what I'm saying? The reality of the drum will still be there, but the communication will not be there. And the reality of knowing what to do with that drum is not going to be there. Why? Because I don't have the affinity for it. Also, without reality, without the drum, there's no affinity. There's no communication. Without communication, there's neither affinity or reality. It's just simple mathematics. This can be seen an example of two strangers. You may find it hard to talk to each other, no communication, since they know nothing about each other, no reality, and are even slightly suspicious and fearful of the other, which is they have a low affinity because they're suspicious and they're fearful. And so it's hard. See, this is a life skill. This is how you communicate, you know what I'm saying, with people around you. Okay. Understanding that you have to have the affinity and the reality. Those components have to be within. Now, I look at this and I say, like, yo, this makes a lot of sense. You can see it in your experiences. You can see it if you experiment. You can experiment with this, and you can see it. saying, the outcome of this, I'm saying, it's just that simple. Some good affinity, like likeness and affection, must exist between two people before they can talk together with any trust. All right. And I'm saying experience. I have that experience. When a person doesn't have that affinity no more for you, it's very hard to talk to that person and gain any type of trust. The thing that come out of their mouth is, I don't trust you anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't trust you because I don't like you anymore. I never did like you. You know what I'm saying? So before two people can be real to each other, there must be some communication between them. So if I'm to be real, the real, keep it real, I gotta have the communication. I gotta have the affinity and the communication. They must at least see each other, which is in itself a type of communication. You gotta see each other. You know what I'm saying? People that ignore you. I don't want to see you. No, ignore you. Okay, turn their back on you. No communication. Because there's no reality. There is no communication. There's no protons being communicated, right? Through the eyes, accepting through the optic. There is no affinity there. So there's no communication. Simple. This is just a simple concept. And this is a reality. This is a life course of how to be cognizant of how to stand to reason how communication works. And there are ways we'll find out later how you could increase your communication with anybody. You know what I'm saying? By knowing these simple steps. Simple, right? Hold on 1 second. Let me just acknowledge people here. Bond Dog, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Devante Harris, peace to you. Zay, assalamu alaikum, peace to you. Yes. Yeah, okay. So, getting back to this. So again, reiterating things. You say when one corner of the triangle is suddenly greatly lower, the level of affinity and reality communication having dropped, the two other corners will also drop, as can be seen in the example, right, with the friend, right? This going just gonna go on and on and on, irrelating, right? Marriage can fall apart simply because of failure of communication. When communication starts failing, the affinity starts dropping. People start having secrets from each other, and the affinity starts going out the bottom, drop it. But even more important than the example of lowering the corners of the triangle, you can raise a level of understanding by starting to raise one corner of the triangle. Develop that affinity, develop a reality. You can have communication with people. You might not get along, but you have that communication. You can do by creating a reality. Say, hey, yo, if you were the mate and say, yo, we have a family together. We got a house to support you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You can't do this. You can't do that because you're just disrupting it. And you can communicate in that form. You know what I'm saying? Just for a while. And I'm talking from an experience. So in other words, it is only necessary to improve one corner of this triangle to start to improve the remaining two corners. It's necessary. Start improving one of the corners. So then you start it will improve the remaining two corners. For example, stranger on the sea, if they start to speak to one another, that means they start communicating. They may find they have something in common. They have a reality. And are they no longer fearful of each other? They raise their affinity. They're no longer fearful of each other. They raise their affinity, and their understanding of each other starts to increase. This increase in understanding between these persons would have started by raising one corner of the triangle in case communication, right? Communication is by far the most important. Communication is the most important. That's why it's on top of the triangle, right? The triangle basically begin with communication. Since by communicating, you can bring into existence affinity and reality by communicating. The more you communicate with something, the more real it will become to you, and the higher your affinity will be for it. Okay. There are many ways that you can use this triangle to repairing broken marriage simply by getting a new plan accepted in a company. Any area of life can be improved using triangles since it's a tool to increase understanding itself. So that's what these 19 courses are all about. Is these life skills so that it can help us, okay, in determining problems and also in helping communicating with each other. You know what I'm saying? And develop that affinity and that reality to start healing ourselves. You know what I'm saying? That's what the 19 courses are all about. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of this is being taught in many different schools of thought. Okay. And let me end that here. There's so much more that can be said, but I want to bring you up to another area, and that is reason. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason for it all. But now let's look. I want to introduce you to something. This is noon science now. Now we're going to go into the nature. Noon science. Because that's, again, like drum, percussion is my thing. This is how, this is my thing. Also, noon, what they call now Valley science. That's my thing. I've been doing that as a child also. Okay, learning these concepts as I growing up. Wow, I got trucks coming through this sucker. Learning this as a child at the same time, 9 years old, and applying it to my percussion. Okay, experimenting and living life. These are life courses. And the Now Valley Science. I'm going to drop it right here. Um, and let's see, let's do this. Share screen. I will share it this way. Mhm. Bring that down. And let me see. Here it is. Okay. This is what we call the introduction to nature. This is book 3. Thank you. Thanks, Alex, for because I had this before. I have book 1 and 2, and I did have 3, and some has just got misplaced. Changed computer. I had a PDF also of that, but it came back to me because I guess it was needed. The universe works like that. You know what I'm saying? You need certain things, and boom, it pops up. And so I thank very much to Alex Rivera, you know what I'm saying, for this. Now, introduction to nature, novenary information. This is very important information. This is noon science. This is the top half of what we call natural nature and the reasoning power we have, mental reasoning power. So we have to learn to concentrate. Look at the word concentrate and you see the word centrate, a center. You see that, right? Center. We have to learn how to define and look into words. So con means to go against, right? So you go against the center and you come back into the concentrate and think deep using positive reasoning. For reasoning is the mental process of figuring something out. And when you figure something out for yourself correctly or in the way that someone else has done it correctly, you can again understand it better and remember it better. Let that be remembered always and let it be known. Going back into the 19 courses and about communication, and that's the process of overstanding. And that's the process of understanding enough so you can overstand and stand to reason, right? The important thing is to learn how to concentrate. And we're gonna do that later, maybe on Thursday when we go into the actual meditation, right? We learn how to and think deep, and use positive reasoning. There's a great book that's written about ascending reasoning and descending reasoning and knowledge. I'll bring that up some other time. But again, for reasoning, that's the mental process of figuring out something. You know what I'm saying? So these 19 courses help you figure out. They already figure it out for you. And remember, this is noon science. This is experimentation. This was handed down, figured it out for you. Okay. And then at the same time, you're figuring it out. And again, a reality is being established and an affinity. And you're beginning to now to what? Communicate with yourself and communicate with everybody around you. You know what I'm saying? Now listen to sound right reason. When you concentrate and think deep, that means reason long enough is when you get your answer. You will find that this process not only helps you understand the knowledge of noon, which is the knowledge of nature, but also helps you figure out your various problems in life. And all of this means that if a person is intelligent enough, he or she can mentally escape to the world of sound right reason and reality, which is what noon science is. You see, these 19 courses, this is noon science. This was taught in Now Valley, in those institutes in around Now Valley. You have to learn how to concentrate, meditate, and concentrate and think deep. You know what I'm saying? That's why you had the glyphs, and you have to think deep within the glyphs, right? In spite of all the evil spells and curses of religion, you know what I'm saying? In spite of all that, when you could figure out your problems by again reasoning, concentrating, and thinking real deep, then you become one who is resurrected from the mental dead and capable of surviving what they call Armageddon, which is the war between right and wrong, the apocalypse, I mean, the revealing, and the arrival of the point 0.3 South catalysm due to the 2022 AD. So the book is saying it was written back in 2007 that in 2022, where we are right now, there's going to be a catalysm, right? And we're going to talk about that later on, okay? And we see it also manifest in these viruses, right? Bacteria and viruses that we're being bombarded with. You see the whole reset of everything and the cataclysm. You know, give or take a few years, according to the circle of order. Now, become elite of nature and survive. You got to become the elite of natural nature to survive. Do not forget to read and study. Book 1 and 2, also as well as this book 3. The new sign is nature education. All of this, even the 19 courses, has to deal with nature education, nature philosophy, the nature. What one deals is what one needs to know for survival and better living spiritually, right? Inspirational, aspirational, and physically, as well as emotionally. Those energy emotions. Let that always be remembered, always, and let it be known. Okay, that this science is nature science. It's education that comes from nature science. Now, ancestors have figured it out already and put it on the walls. I put it in text. It's there. We can see, even by seeing the mistakes that some of our elders made, we can learn from that. That's their experimentation. We can learn from that and know what not mistakes to make. Okay. And we need is nature science if we need to survive and better ourselves spiritually and physically. Okay. Now listen to sound right reason. One main purpose of the philosophy known as noon is not only to impart life giving and much need nature knowledge to the members of their users for the African race, or let's say all humanity, but also to help bring out and help sharpen our ability to reason soundly and rightly in order to regain our regal status as noble people, what they call the Ethiopian race, as being the Patakendoid race. Means that we have the potential to become gods and goddesses again, like no other race of people. Now remember, this is written in the text in the terms of uplifting a downtrodden people. Okay, a downtrodden people, and now the upliftment because in humanity something happened in humanity. A certain people were downtrodden, so especially from the African race. And so now there's got to be the liftment. The cradle of civilization needs to be uplifted again. That is very important. Okay. So we must use reason, which is sound, correct, sound reason, and profound concentration on our problems, both personal and racial, both on a family, personal, and humanity for the best solution to our problems and the best answers to our questions. We must do less drinking and more thinking for our own benefits. Don't drink so much. You're getting drunk. Think more. Deep concentration with sound right reason to find answers to our problem has to be repeated time and time again until the best solution to your problem sticks in your mind And by the way it comes to you, you will know that it is the best answer to your question or the best solution to your problem. Let that be known. Listen to sound right reason. Remember, reasoning is the mental process of figuring something out. When you reason correctly or to the best of your knowledge and ability. Also, reasoning is a mental process of verifying, very important, verifying information or disproving it to the best of your knowledge and ability. Verifying that information or disproving it to the best of your knowledge and ability with honor and integrity. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Correct it. Correct it. Okay? If you're going to disprove something, disprove it, but offer an antidote, offer the answer to that particular problem. If you're just going to, that's the life of a spectator. If you're going to disprove, but don't offer any valid, verifying information, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay? Sound right reason is deep progressive thinking and profound concentration designed to gather data. That's wunupu. You gather the data, right? And then what is it? Asunupu is the overstanding, the standing to reason that data. And then you got the naba nupu is the actual practicality of that particular knowledge, data. And conclude on the issue by separating logical true from the apparent false. Logical true from the apparent false. Now, the Patakindoi race, people, Patahites, coming from the Nile Valley, Uganda, Patahite, the Nuban, that's a nobility race by nature, because nobility, which is 9 standards of nobility, begin with this African race, also known what they call the ether Ethiopian race, which is the ether utopian race. In addition, this race of other people are direct descendants. The race of people are direct descendant of the blood, of the flesh and blood gods and goddesses who inhibited the top half of the space, matter, and time circle of order during the time of time. We're gonna have to go into deep into that to explain to what is the SMAT circle, the space, matter, and time circle, and stuff like that. Okay, and the correct information makes the Ethiopian race noble by nature. Correct information. Are you ether? Are you an ether being in a utopia? Ether utopian. Are you an ether being in utopia? And if we're all etheric beings, we have an ether energy, an etheric egg around us, right? That manifested primordial beings, etheric primordial beings that manifested into the physical body. First manifestation of that happened in Lake Victoria, in Uganda, amongst these people. That's the oldest genetics you find among Khoi people and the San people. Okay? That's just keeping it real. Keeping it real, 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 real. That's it. Simple. You look into anthropology, you look into linguistics and anthropology, look into these sciences, even geographical. You see this. This is real. This is a reality. Okay? Okay? So I'm just going to leave it right there on that one. Peace. This is knowledge. This is new knowledge. Um, what's up? Wepa, little Mario. So, gotta keep it real. It's reality. You know what I'm saying? Gotta keep it real. And again, verifying this information. Okay. And when something is not right, it's just not right. You can't, it doesn't fit the puzzle. Why try to squeeze it in there and force your way into what they call truth when all those pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly together? Fit perfectly together. Right? What else I was going to show? All right. So I'm not gonna keep it. I'm just gonna keep it on the hour mark. So I got a couple of minutes here. Anybody wants to call in, you can call in. I'll put the number on here. I got my phone up. Yeah, it's up. That's the phone number in the bottom. Is just dedicated to this here. Please do not send me any scams and spams and whatever. It's just a phone, and I could put you on live on here. So Again, these 19 courses that are offered by the African Kingdom Federation, right? Yes, it comes out of Scientology online, but it's not saying join. I don't join no Church of Scientology. I don't need to do that. I don't need to join any church. I don't need to do any of that stuff. But I want to see what you got. What do you have that's gonna better my conditions? And let's communicate. This is the communication skills. You know what I'm saying? We're gaining this information, right? And to see how does it adds up into our life. What can it do to better our life? So again, it's important when you're doing communication and you're communicating, even through the internet, you have to develop that affinity and you have to have that reality. That remember, let's put it back up here. Let me see. Yeah, I do this. Um, want to put this up here. Here we go. Communication, reality, and affinity. This triangle here. Understanding. You gain on this understanding to gain an overstanding so you can stand to reason. So you're communicating. What we're doing online here, you're doing your YouTube, we're communicating. You have to develop one, a reality. A reality. You're on the internet. It's a physical thing. You're on the internet. A reality with that person. I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? That car is red. It's red. You develop that reality. Yo, that object is this, that object is that. And then affinity is very important. You got to develop some type of likeness for that. You want to occupy the same space. If I don't want to communicate with you, then I don't want to be in the same space as you, not even on the metaverse and the internet space with you. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to communicate with you. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have affinity for you. You know, your reality is not my reality. But in order to have a communication, I don't have no problem communicating with a lot of people because I look at their reality. And then I say, well, that's real. That's where you at. That's real, whatever. Do I have an affinity for it? I can, if the more affinity I develop for that and for you, the more I'm going to be able to communicate with you. So I want to, I had this affinity for humanity. I have this affinity for humanity. The reality is that we're a social being by nature. We want to better our conditions. We want our family to do well, right? We want to do well ourselves. We want our family to do well. We want a community to do well. Come on. Even on the internet community, we want everyone to do well. We don't want to be antisocial. We don't want to harm nobody. We don't want to do any of that stuff because at the end of the day, it's not going to bring anything to. There's going to be no communication there. You know what I'm saying? No communication. So don't get that twisted. You know, people think, oh yeah, yeah, if I do this and I do that and that, I'm gonna no. And you notice that it creates a situation for you that you don't need. Simple as that. Hmm. So, with that being said, I again Hahum in Taino, Hahum, Tawat, Tawu, thanks, and gracias a todo. For those of you who are communicated here. You know what I'm saying? No one has any questions whatsoever, but that's okay. And just wanted to say that again, the 19 courses are open to everyone. Just get at me. This is my email right here. Let me see. I gotta make another email because I use this email a lot. But anyway, that's my phone number right there. Just you can text me right there, scrolling in the bottom. You can text me, you know what I'm saying, and tell me, hey, I'm interested in these 19 courses. It's important, it's just so important. We went over these courses. And again, not telling you to join the Church of Scientology. Don't get it twisted. I'm not telling you. I mean, I got books here. I got the Satanic Bible. I'm gonna bring it up one day on it, the Satanic Bible. And out of that Satanic Bible, I can extract nature science from that perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm going to join. I'm a Satanist. It doesn't mean that I'm going to join the Church of Satan. No, man. It's not about that. You have to learn how to extract because everything is coming from the source. You see, when you are now connecting to the source, you see when you connect to the source, it casts a shadow of doctrine and dogma. But that's just the shadow. When you get to the source of it, man, you see the source where it's all coming from. And the source of it is coming from the Nile Valley, from the Niger Congo, the Green Sahara, that whole area, and then the Nile Valley. The source of it all is coming from there, especially when you deal with this philosophy. Socrates, the Greek philosophy, they all spent time in ancient Kemet. And they went into the Nile. All of them. You know what I'm saying? The Christians, all of the Masons, all of them take trips to Kemet and the Nile Valley. L. Ron Hubbard, the originator of the Scientology, where do you think he went? Hmm? I got my granddaughter here. I'm sorry. Wait, mama. Uh-oh. What's up, cutie? Oh, okay. Oh, man. What's up, cutie? So, she's seen this. So, don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Develop this reality. Very, very, very important. When you don't touch it, when you are you don't have to join. Richard, what's up? You don't have to join no Scientology or Satanic Church or any of that. You know what I'm saying? But there are certain principles that they have to borrow, and you have to go to the source of it. Because this doctrine and dogma, at the end of the day, that's the shadow. It's cast by the source. Go to the source. And that's what, you know, is in this presentation. I take it to natural science, nature science. Things that you can observe, things that you can, again, in your mind, figure it out. You can figure this out when you do it and you think deeply. You get to reason and figure. That's what reason is, to figure things out. Or at least learn what others figured out for you. You know what I'm saying? You can do that. I reason with them playing percussion because before me, you had percussionists figure out of how to hit this drum and how to get the bass, the bajo, and the segunda, tres golpe, and the quinto. That's been figured out. In Africa, these rhythms has been figured out already. So you know what I'm saying? And then by my affinity, right? The reality of it has been figured out, but my affinity and my emotional content, I get to learn it. I get to learn how to communicate with that drum. Okay. I get to, you know what I'm saying? That's what that is. You know? And that's the lesson, you know what I'm saying, for today. Look at this girl. You know what I'm saying? So, again, we're here at the hour mark. I thank everyone. And I haven't played my outro in a long, long time. And I think I'm just going to do my outro today, okay? So, again, hey, all the blessings to you, okay?